What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to Jocz Productions. In this video, we're taking a look at the American system and Henry Clay. Following the War of 1812, there was an outpouring of nationalism in the young nation. The U.S. had once again defended its independence from Great Britain.
We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
And as a result, the country was united more so than ever before. In addition, prior to, during, and after the War of 1812, the U.S. was starting to experience something known as the Market Revolution. During the Market Revolution, innovations in textile machinery increased the efficiency of production methods. All of the embargoes that took place prior to the War of 1812 to try to maintain American neutrality meant American manufacturing was beginning to develop. It had to develop, or there would be no manufactured goods in America. You can see in this graphic that by 1840, most of the textile industry was largely concentrated in the northeastern part of the United States. While the South grew cotton, they did not process it. It was largely northern factories that spun and wove raw cotton into cloth, if it wasn't being sent to Britain. And after the War of 1812, Henry Clay came up with a plan to unify the U.S. economy called the American system. The American system was Henry Clay's proposal for renewal of the National Bank, a protective tariff, and internal transportation improvements. Tariffs would largely help the Northeast by protecting American manufacturing. The National Bank would aid the economies of all parts of the country, and internal transportation improvements would primarily help the growth of the West and South, but would benefit all parts of the country as well. Henry Clay felt the American system would be a huge boost to the entire U.S. economy. Let me get into some of the details. The charter of the Bank of the United States was allowed to expire in 1811. Following the war, many Democratic Republicans began to rethink their opposition to a national bank.
Because I want to make bank, bro.
They came to understand that a strong banking system would help the economy prosper and ensure access to easy and abundant credit. And as a result, Congress renewed the Bank of the United States in 1816. While the bank was generally accepted by many Democratic Republicans, not everyone was as enthusiastic about the Tariff of 1816. The Tariff of 1816 was the first time a tariff was passed primarily for protection, not just to raise revenue. The purpose of the tariff was to help out American factories. While this sounds super awesome, areas without a large number of factories did not see the benefit of this tariff. Some saw the Tariff of 1816 as sectional legislation. There was a concern that some of the policies of the American system would benefit industry over agriculture. People outside the North felt like the tariff is going to hurt them. Here's how. Let's just say the cost for a factory in Britain to manufacture a t-shirt was $2.50. Because American industry is in its early stages of development, it cost an American factory $3 to manufacture the same type of product. Assuming the items are of similar quality, consumers in the US are clearly going to favor the British item because it is cheaper. What the Tariff of 1816 was intended to do was to help protect American manufacturing from this type of competition. Tariffs made imports more expensive as they put a tax on imported goods. So for instance, let's just say the US decides to charge a tax of $1 per imported good. The British made t-shirt now would cost $3.50 in the United States. I know, you are super impressed by my sick math skills. The idea behind the tariff was to encourage consumers to buy American goods since the tariff made foreign goods more expensive. As you can see with this tariff example, the American t-shirt is the better deal now. Clay believed a protective tariff would be key to developing American manufacturing and industry by protecting industry from British competition. Clay felt the U.S. should increase domestic manufacturing in order to promote economic prosperity. However, people outside the industrializing North are not too fond of this plan. They just want the cheapest product available. The Tariff of 1816 made manufactured goods more expensive. Now, Henry Clay would not have a book calling him the essential American if he did not have a plan to get support for the American system. In order to get members of Congress in the South and West to support the tariff, he proposed money from the tariff would be used to fund internal improvements to transportation, especially roads and canals. Transportation improvements generated a lot of enthusiasm. As you can see, it took a heck of a lot of time to get to places in the early 19th century. This had repercussions not only for trade, but also national defense. The idea behind transportation improvements was going from the North and East would be manufactured goods heading to markets in the South and West. Food and raw materials such as cotton would travel from the South and West to the North and East, and these internal improvements would increase trade amongst the different sections of the country. Clay and others felt this movement of goods would unite the country economically and politically by developing a national economy. While this sounds super wonderful, as we've seen with the tariff, the American system will generate a debate in the country. So who's debating? With the demise of the Federalists, there was only one political party party, the Democratic Republicans. The Federalist Party put another nail in their political coffin by largely opposing the War of 1812, and some radical Federalists really messed up when during the war they participated in the Hartford Convention and discussed possibly leaving the Union over their objections to the War of 1812 and Democratic Republican policies. Following the election of 1816, the Federalists are going to be pretty much gone from national politics. Federalists got beat down in the election of 1816 and did not even nominate a presidential candidate for the election of 1820. And although this period of only one political party and increased nationalism will be called the era of good feelings, not everything is going to be all peachy just because there's only one political party. With only one national political party remaining, the Democratic Republican Party suffered internal debate and tension. Some members of the party stuck to the old party ideals of limited federal government and a strict interpretation of the Constitution. As I've discussed, many of the Democratic Republicans in the South opposed the tariff, which they felt favored industry and the northern sections of the country. Now keep in mind, Henry Clay at this time is also a Democratic Republican. The whole vibe of this party was state rights and emphasis on agriculture. But Clay and others in the party began to accept some of the Federalist ideas, such as support for the national bank and trying to develop domestic manufacturing. But other Democratic Republicans, such as President James Madison, felt the Constitution did not give the federal government the power to get involved in transportation improvements within the states. In 1817, President Madison vetoed the bonus bill that would have used federal funds to build roads, bridges, and canals throughout the country. President Monroe also resisted federal funding on roads and canal construction. Both Madison and Monroe, M&M, stated the Constitution did not explicitly allow for federal spending on roads and canals and opposed federal funding for transportation improvements. As a result, during the Transportation Revolution, it would be the states that would take on most of the transportation projects. The most famous project being the Erie Canal, completed in 1825. As you can see, the improvements in transportation, such as the steamboat and the building of roads, canals, and eventually railroads, dramatically changed the amount of time it took to travel and the cost to transport goods and people. But in spite of the nationalism during this time period and the existence of only one political party, there still were debates about the American system and the role of the federal government, what is allowed under the Constitution, and a whole variety of other issues. In our next video, we're going to take a look at Jackson and federal power. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day. Peace.